We all love cult classic horror movies, but when does a horror movie become a cult classic? Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be talking about 10 horror movies that I feel are going to become cult classics in the future. Now, in the future, that could be 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, but at this moment in time, they're not considered cult classics. And I've chosen movies specifically within the last 20 years because I think when you go beyond 20 years, if a horror movie is already good, it probably already is considered a cult classic. So in this video, these 10 horror movies aren't specifically horror movies that I absolutely love. Yes, of course, there's going to be some in there that I do love, but there's some in there that I think, they're okay, but I feel like others might consider them cult classics in the future. So it's not just my personal opinion, it's opinions that I see online, opinions that I feel are changing over time. I also feel like a cult classic might be a horror movie that isn't considered amazing at the time of its release, but over time it becomes a better movie and gets that cult following. The list is also not going to be in any sort of order. So when you see the first one come out, it's not going to be considered less or more of a cult classic than number 10 on the list. It's just 10 movies I feel will become cult classics at some point in the future. First up, we've got The Strangers Prey at Night from 2018. I feel like on its initial release, it was compared to, rightfully so, to the first movie. And the first movie could also be considered a cult classic on its own, but that's not on the list. The reason that Prey at Night is on the list instead of the first movie is because this was really slated by not just critics, but audiences when it first came out. But I do feel like this film is getting a better rap these days, especially with this new trilogy coming out, because so far it's dog shit. But I feel like Prey at Night, and for me, I loved Prey at Night when it first came out, but looking at it 10, not even 10 years on, 7 years on now, it's got the mood, the atmosphere, great acting, and I feel like we've built upon these strangers in this one over the first one. I actually prefer Prey at Night over the first movie. That's how great I felt this movie was when it first came out. And then on rewatch, nothing's changed. I feel like this is a very, very strong sequel. Next up, we've got Jennifer's Body from 2009, another movie on the list that I loved at the time and still love now. I love it even more now. The soundtrack was great, the acting was great, and the horror sometimes was quite scary. I think what drags this movie down is Megan Fox's off-camera antics. I think when you see Megan Fox in a movie, old or new, people will just say, no, it's bad, Megan Fox is in it, I don't want to watch it. Hopefully though, over time, that news about Megan Fox beyond the screen will be outweighed by how great this movie actually is. Next up, we have Trick or Treat from 2007. This one is a strange one because I don't think we even got a release until 2009, 2010, depending on which country you're from. That hindered the movie straight away because they were reluctant to release this movie. I felt like they didn't know how to market this one. It had actors that were from Marvel movies. So it feels like they were waiting for a specific time to release this instead of just releasing it back in 2007 when they should have. But when you look back in this movie, it has to be one of the most Halloween themed and Halloween feeling movies in that Halloween subgenre, and obviously it created an icon in Sam. Next up, we've got It Follows, and I'm feeling I'm being a little bit selfish with this one because to me, It Follows is one of the greatest horror movies of all time. It's that good. On rewatch, it just gets better and better. It's a simplistic story, but I think even just the score itself as a character in of itself as well, the movie is an utter masterpiece, so I have to add it to the list because if you feel even remotely like I feel, of course, in the next 5, 10, 15 years, It Follows will become a cult classic. Next, we've got House of the Devil from 2009. Now, this is one that on rewatch, isn't as good as I remember. It's still a good film. It's got that mood and the atmosphere that we want. And it does genuinely feel like a movie that was shot in the early 80s or the late 70s. So with what Ty West done with this movie was fantastic. I just feel like it needed to be a little bit stronger than it actually was. But with that put aside, when I check online, everybody, well, not everybody, because I don't, a lot of people absolutely adore this movie, and I can see why. The things that I have problems with, I can see why people actually enjoy those things. But with how strong this movie is online, there is something about it that just makes me feel like it will, in some form, will become that cult classic. Next up is The Autopsy of Jane Doe from 2016. I think what hinders this one is the fact that a lot of people don't even know this movie exists. And I didn't know this movie existed till maybe 3 or 4 years after it came out. In fact, there was actually a YouTube subscriber of mine that recommended me to watch this movie, and I watched it and I was absolutely blown away by it. And then I only watched it that one time until a couple of months ago. I actually said to my son, let's watch The Autopsy of Jane Doe. And we watched it, and it still has that creepy vibe, that creepy factor about it. But there's something about it that it'll catch on, it'll get that second wind. When people start realizing this movie exists, I think it will get that cult status. Next up, we've got Halloween Ends from 2022. This will be a controversial one because at this moment in time, the wounds are still healing. It's only been 3 years as of the recording of this video, and there's a lot of people out there that still absolutely hate and despise this movie with a passion. I can see why they hate it, because they are probably Michael Myers fans, and maybe they don't absolutely adore Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. But if you look at Halloween 3 Season of the Witch as that prime example, it has now become a cult classic. It wasn't even maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch was still hated. So it took a long time for that movie to become a cult classic. I don't think Halloween Ends will take as long, because we've all learned that we don't need a Halloween movie with Michael Myers in it. And of course, Michael is in the movie, but it's ultimately a Corey Cunningham movie. And for me, it was already a great film. But I think over time, as the wounds heal, people will come to appreciate Halloween Ends. Now, of course, I will get comments down below where people will say, you're wrong, it's the worst movie ever, you know nothing about Halloween, you know nothing about Michael Myers. Of course I'm going to get that, because it's only been 3 years. But come back to this video in 10, 15 years time, you'll probably go, do you know what, maybe I was a little bit harsh on Halloween Ends, to the point I'm now calling it a cult classic. Next up, we've got Bone Tomahawk from 2015. Now, it's only been 10 years or so since this movie came out, and it's another one similar to The Autopsy of Jane Doe that not a lot of people have heard of and not a lot of people have seen. And it's got Kurt Russell in it, but people still haven't seen this movie. I think it's a little bit the opposite of mainstream because of what you see in the movie. What makes this movie controversial is possibly what puts people off even watching the movie. I know people who haven't saw this movie, and the reason they haven't saw it is because of what apparently to them features. If you look past some of those gruesome moments in the movie, you've got a really good story there, great acting, and of course, it's very gruesome as well. But ultimately, I think this movie, in time, will become a cult classic. Next on the list, we've got Friday the 13th from 2009. Now, it's no secret by now that this movie is my favourite movie in the Friday the 13th franchise. When it first came out, to be honest, it wasn't. It was maybe 4th or 5th on the list. But every time I watch it, I feel like this one ages gracefully. It ages a lot better than most of the movies in the Friday the 13th franchise. This is another one that people at the time didn't like. Now, it's similar to Halloween Ends, not in the sense that there's no Jason Voorhees, in the sense that people just hated the movie when it first came out. But this one came out at a time where a lot of people hated remakes. The people that hated this movie are the ones that say, you're ruining the original, it's all ruined. You can't ruin an original. If anything, you're only bringing light to the people who hadn't seen the original in the first place. However, with that being said, I feel like the remake blows the original out of the water and then some. To me, it's already a cult classic and it's only been 16 years. I feel like maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, this will become a cult classic. And it is still, at this moment in time, the last movie in the Friday the 13th franchise. So maybe I'm feeling like because it's the last movie in the franchise, then it's a cult classic itself. But I still feel it's got that status. Last but not least on the list, we've got Eden Lake from 2008. I think what hinders this one is the fact that it's a UK-based movie and Americans probably didn't see this one in 2008. If anything, they maybe saw it way later in the years, maybe the mid-2010s. I didn't hear a lot of Americans talking about this movie until maybe recently within the last 5 years. But I'm glad it's starting to catch a few people across the world because it's another one like the Autopsy of Jane Doe, albeit that one's an American movie. This one being set in the UK and having a very UK-based story to it, maybe it puts people off because we've got chavs and Neds in the UK that a lot of Americans and Canadians and Australians, etc., maybe won't know anything about until they see some sort of comparison in their country to what we're trying to portray in Eden Lake. But it's a brutal movie, an amazing movie with a great cast. We've got Kelly Riley and Jack O'Connell. They weren't really known at the time this movie came out, but with their success, people are going to it for the first time. Look at Jack O'Connell, for example. He was in Sinners and he's now in 28 Years Later trilogy. So with people seeing him and loving his performances, maybe they'll look out and seek out Eden Lake and see that his performance in this one equals what he'd done in Sinners. And because of that, I feel like in time, this will become a cult classic. So with those 10 movies that I've given you guys, which one or a few of them do you feel could become cult classics in the future? And if none of those tickle your fancy, which horror movie within the last 20 years do you feel in time will become a cult classic? As always, guys, leave your comments and opinions down below. Let me know what you think. And as always, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you soon.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back! See